When we started in 2009, we had no idea of the meteorological data of the site. So we worked for 8 months before we started, and we realized it's a composite climate. But besides that, again, it started, where am I going to get earth from for building? The interesting part was we didn't have, and you're all students, case studies to go back to. So if I go to Trivandrum and study that, and I cannot use it here. And I didn't even have the money to travel so much. So I was only reading some books, looking at some pictures here and there, no internet at that time. Let's say by serendipity, you ended up having gardens. Unlike now, when the cost of the land is so high and cost of construction is sometimes 1/4, 1/5, that you build a lot more. We now are obsessed with cost. How do we work with cost? How do we reduce cost? Because for us, ecological construction has to be economical. And in simple terms, if we make very expensive buildings for people who have taken loans, and so they have to pay it longer through EMI, and working is the worst, is a disaster for environment. So if people work less, they make nice art, or they have nice conversation, it's so much better than working. So it has become part of our ethos. So this is a school for Jindal Steel. It's about, I think it's about 1.5 lakh square feet. Every classroom has 3 sections. This was next to the plant, and the air was polluted because of the plant. So, and the school had to be naturally ventilated. So how do we do that? We can't open the windows because of the pollution. A combination of a lot of corruption in terms of making of blocks, a combination of bad design details, everything. The buildings were eroding away, and nobody was accepting use of earth. That failure pushed back using of earth in Bangalore by about 15 years. Thank you, Nikita, for the introduction, and thank you all, and thank you, Elevate, for inviting me here. I've never talked in Bangalore, and I just don't know what to be talking to a crowd in Bangalore. I've been giving a lot of talks, in fact, in different parts of the world where I go and say, that this is the best place to practice architecture, this city of Bangalore, because it has given me a lot. So, but now in Bangalore, what do I talk to Bangaloreans? But then I was sitting in the lounge and I overheard the panel speakers who were here earlier that it's mostly a young crowd. So I'm very enthused. I think it's because I love teaching. I don't teach very often, so I take a few semesters once in a way, every 2-3 years, but I love to teach because I learn a lot from that. And that's what one saw even in this exhibition. Young people trying different ways, I think, for a better future. So, since I love you all the young, please feel free to interrupt me in this conversation I'm having. It's not one monologue. I don't want to sit here or stand here. I'm not getting a chair to sit, so stand here and just preach, okay? So our office is called Biome. Biome means ecology of a place. So if you remember, in geography you'd have heard of tundra biome and other biomes, and that's basically ecology of a place. And my topic is called Learning from the Small. And why is it learning from the small? This is a 33-year-old practice started by me in 1990. Now it is 35, yeah. It's old practice and still going on. And we've done about 1,000 projects. Yeah, it's a lot. No? I was just coming with an ex-colleague of mine, and he was saying that, when we were about 5, 8 people, we were doing 60, 70 projects. I'm trying to think where all they were. I was asking him, where all did you do the projects? And they were all small projects. And small has really helped. So in 1,000, at least 900 of them were homes. It was in 1990s when we started, Bangalore changed. Bangalore changed from being a sleepy garden city and also a manufacturing hub to becoming the Silicon Valley. And India changed. India changed from a socialist economy to a capitalist economy. And it all brought about opening of the city, opening of land in the city. So land was made available for people to purchase, and they purchased these small plots. And that's how in Bangalore most of the common plots are 30, 40, 40, 50, 40, 60, 30, 50, in such sizes. And people were buying the land. People bought land and they had to build. Now at that time, the cost of construction was double the cost of the land. So that's how my story began, where we worked at reducing cost. But out of the 1,000 projects, 900 are homes. So I'll just show a few projects, a lot of them, and we talk about construction, we talk about different ideas, how very simple construction and ideas integrate themselves into an ecosystem. Because the challenges were from biome, and challenges were from lands which didn't have services. So this is an ecosystem of natural materials or nature, human-made, ecosystem of construction and of constructors, of people who are making, and eventually people who will be occupying them. Like most women, I came to Bangalore after getting married, had a baby. This is a sketch by my friend Anil Achar, and you're working with the baby, taking the baby to the site too. But most of the projects in the beginning 15 years was on homes and making them economical. So like I earlier said, the sites were double the cost of construction. Sorry, the construction was double the cost of sites. So people had to reduce construction. And it had a beautiful result for it. What happened with that is that people built less. So by design, or let's say by serendipity, you ended up having gardens. Unlike now, when the cost of the land is so high and cost of construction is sometimes 1/4, 1/5, that you build a lot more. You're taking the juice out of the site. But that wasn't happening then. So, Laurie Baker was known here. In Kerala, he's been doing a lot of work. And in South, he was known. And it was acceptable to follow whatever his philosophies were with the clients. And a lot of the early clients were also from Kerala. Then Bangalore and the Bangaloreans made us to work on the contextual details for, again, Bangalore purpose. So you could take Laurie Baker's ideas, but if you end up using it here with just jolly walls, from March to June, you're really cold. You can't do that. Or you're bitten and kind of totally troubled by the mosquitoes so much. So it can't happen. The light quality is different, so what do I do with the light quality? All that one was learning. And the interesting part was we didn't have, and you're all students, case studies to go back to. So if I go to Trivandrum and study that, and I cannot use it here. And I didn't even have the money to travel so much. So I was only reading some books, looking at some pictures here and there, no internet at that time. But what economical construction did to us is that we now are obsessed with cost. How do we work with cost? How do we reduce cost? Because for us, ecological construction has to be economical. And in simple terms, if we make very expensive buildings for people who have taken loans, and so they have to pay it longer through EMI. And working is the worst, is a disaster for environment. So if people work less, they make nice art, or they have nice conversation, it's so much better than working. So it has become part of our ethos. Next, can I just... So these were the small projects. A classroom for Spastic Society of India in Indiranagar. They didn't have a large classroom for children on wheelchair to do art. So we converted a bus shelter into a classroom. 30 years later, we went and saw that it's still there. It was temporary, but I think they loved it so much, and they did a good job of changing the roof. It's still available. But this was 1 week project, design and build. Next. It's happening, it's just slow. Another small project in a 40 by 60 plot. You can see it's all rat trap bond, but slightly different. With lots of skylights. Saving cost in plaster and paint, that the ethos, and using waste which is local. Instead of bringing Mangalore tiles from elsewhere, because we were not getting waste Mangalore tiles, which Baker was getting in Kerala. So but here, stone, which was available, just place it. What we are doing is not plastering. And also making the concrete better, because now we won't have exposed steel. So they also work as cover blocks. But in 1995, we bought our own plot of land in a place called Vidyaranyapura, and we decided to build our own home. Till then, if we talked about building with earth, it was difficult because Karnataka Housing Board had designed and built a large housing colony made with mud, sometimes in 80s, 86, 87, it had done. But a combination of a lot of corruption in terms of making of blocks, a combination of bad design details, everything, the buildings were eroding away and nobody was accepting use of earth. That failure pushed back using of earth in Bangalore by about 15 years. We decided we'll build a house because we went and we saw a neighbor was digging foundation and we said, this is beautiful earth and we should build with earth. And how do we get earth? We decided we'll make a basement. And we had never done a basement earlier before. So it's not the best basement, but it's a lovely basement. So we decided to make a basement, took out the earth, built not only our own home, only the walls, but also one small house nearby where we couldn't dig for the basement. But what happened was later we did study the internal temperature and we found that the basement remains 22 degrees centigrade throughout the year. So now the basements are permaculture of solutions. So they are not only giving you earth to build with, not only giving you an extra space, but also a cool space. When you start looking at it holistically in terms of energy consumption and the way temperatures are rising even in Bangalore, basement is a great solution. That's a basement. It keeps changing. It's no longer a TT space. It's my home office, come a large bedroom thing. And the home, it's on a 30 by 50 plot. So it's a small plot. We can't play with the areas. So what we did was we played with the volume. So the rooms are about 15 feet tall with a loft. So you have a bed at 7 feet, which is great during the cold nights. You don't need anything to warm you up because it's right under the concrete. The heat comes down, and it's lovely to be there. So you're using volumes instead of areas in the design. So it became imperative for us, where do we source earth from in all our designs? So two places where you source earth from are basements. So talk to the client and say, have a basement. Very difficult to talk about it, but it's possible. The next is water reservoirs, because we were working on water too, a lot on water, because Bangalore needed that. We're working in peri-urban areas. There is no BWSSB connection for both taking away your waste or giving you water. So we're working on rainwater harvesting. Biome was involved in designing the bylaw for rainwater harvesting in Bangalore. And it all started from our home. My husband saw, oh, okay, thank you. Husband, he just collected the rainwater coming down, and he said, oh my God, this much rainwater comes down from our terrace while construction. So he said, let's connect, and we learned how to work out the pipes. Then we have, you have to do a lot of other science works in terms of what kind of filters we do. We were making filters every other day in the office, trying different things. In fact, we tried so many things that once when it rained, it was like the cave, Phantom's Cave. If you all have ever read Phantom comics, he goes through a cave where there is a waterfall. So one day the water fell through. It came down from the terrace into the house, because we tried a sponge in the downtake, saying that would give us the cleanest water, but we didn't realize that you could have a cloud burst, and then we got up in the night and we felt like we are in Phantom's Cave, which left 3 feet of water in our basement. But these are learnings, and that's why when I was asked the question, which is your best project or which is your most challenging, it's always been our home, because we've been trying in our home a lot of stuff all the time, including something called a dry toilet. So basically, earth is always sourced, so that is part of the design. When you're working on the design, you're always thinking where the material is coming from. So basements in Bangalore looks like this. Even now, the cost of building with stone is cheaper than making with concrete. The mortar is a stabilized mortar. Next. And then you take out the earth. See, this is the beautiful earth. And mix it with quarry dust. When we began, quarry dust was a waste. We get it almost free, so it really brought down the cost of the blocks. Mix it with between 5 to 7% of cement. Press it with hand. So there's no machine involved. It's all hand pressed. And we really love working with laborers, because in India still, we need to employ people. And they were made, but it also is that soon it started happening that there were teams who would come and make blocks. And it's very interesting. You get to know the team personally, and they would come and tell me, now my son is studying civil engineering. I got my daughter married and gave some 5 tolas of gold. But this city provided for that. It provided employment to people who just have to come with a machine. And in fact, in the beginning, we bought the machine. We thought we would rent out the machine. It didn't work out. But machine, easy to buy, and you have people to do that job. And they scale up in the ladder in terms of economically, without investing anything other than their physical labor. So that's the section of the house. So while it's doing this, in terms of living, we're also looking at how do we live there? Okay, we harvest the water, but what happens to our waste? So we'd been to China to study rainwater harvesting. We came back with a toilet pan. People brought phones, they brought other electronic goods, but we brought a toilet pan. It was easy to get through the customs too, because it's just a plastic pan everybody was seeing. But that is called a source separating pan. Is it possible if I take this call? I'll just get my cook at home. I have my granddaughter at home, and I wanted to get back before I could, that I go home and cook. But if I could just take this call, I'll tell her to. Is that okay? Basically, the toilet pan is called source separating toilet, so where you separate urine and fecal matter. You don't do it yourself, it comes out from your body that way. I know these are things, but these are important things. So, using the urine, which we harvest in the EcoSan toilet, we grow rice on the terrace. Urine is very good. You all are walking, useless factories of fertilizer. You're not doing that enough. But the idea of basement kept growing. There's a basement with skylight. Our basement is the worst basement in terms of light because I didn't know how to work with basement. And I didn't even know how to work with light in Bangalore. I've born in Banaras, different kind of light, studied in Ahmedabad, different kind of light, but you come down south and the light is right on top. And it's throughout the year the same, and worse in Bangalore, which is 80% cloud covered 60% of the year. It's like horrible gray sky. So how do you do? So you start working on a lot of skylights. So this is one basement with skylight, the other basement with a garden. So you don't feel you're in the basement, and you have a well in the basement. So it takes care of water which falls into the basement. You don't have to worry. It goes into a well. Quite like here, we have 2 wells in this courtyard. They are covered with very nice, square, minimalist finish. We would have celebrated the well because it's an important part of Bangalore, an important part of ecosystem. So here's a well here which collects all the rainwater which falls into the basement. This is happening by itself? You're doing it? Okay. Go back, please. Okay, next, yeah. Let me say next so I know what's happening. So this is a school in Coimbatore called Yellow Train, and this is mother of all basements. So you can see that's the road where biome is, and then it gets cut down by 1.5 meters, the whole of the land. Next. That's what you see. This is the road. Within a farm it is, so the road is not blacktop. And that's the play area. And there, Tamil Nadu school board doesn't allow for classrooms in the basement, rightly so. What do? We have to get the earth to build. This is about 15 years old now, and nobody was making blocks there. And we had to make blocks because also it's what we are known for. People want that anywhere in the world now. So we had to make with earth blocks. So he said, we'll cut everything. We'll cut even your playground. By the way, we don't use the top 1 foot, 300 mm of soil because that's the soil which has humus and it's really good for growing stuff. But below that, we use that. So we cut everything out and made the building. Now, children can come out of the classroom into the garden, into an open space. Next. And that's how the inside is large passageways with play. Because it's so hot in Coimbatore, so why can't we play inside itself? Different ways of negotiating levels. Children go up by the slide. Next. A classroom modulated the windows in such a way that because they sit on the floor, air over your body and light which will come deeper with, again, steel windows, minimum simple steel windows. Next. On a larger project, this started in 2009. We worked with them for 13 years. This is near Mumbai. This is 100 kilometers from Mumbai. And when we started in 2009, we had no idea of the meteorological data of the site. So we worked for 8 months before we started, and we realized it's a composite climate. But besides that, Again, it started, where am I going to get earth from for building? So we did what we call as a hydrogeological study. A hydrogeological study is to understand how the water flows below. Basically, it's aquifer mapping. So with that, we found there is a recharge zone on the top northeast part of the land, because there were hills in the northeast. From there, the water comes down, and you could cut a large lake, or we should call it ponds or tanks. So we did that. And over here, at a lower level, where we could take out the water, discharge zone. And these became our soil procurement spaces, elements in the design, in the master plan. So the master plan is looking at water, is looking at material, and it's the master plan, how you'll place the buildings. Next. And that's the large pond. The pond became a biodiversity hub. It also becomes a place where the monks go boating. So it's recreation, but it's what it's as such doing is recharging the ground. And it's now within the community, it becomes a habit that they're creating more ponds and harvesting water. Next. And that's the building. Except for the wall of the staircase, which is exposed, is not covered by the roof, none of the others get any moss. And it's not showing off against this carbon craft people. They're doing amazing work, but people don't like moss. I think it's a great thing. Some moss also takes away carbon, provides oxygen into the air. But this is not vernacular in the sense that I'm putting a sloping roof of Mangalore tiles. This is because Mangalore tiles were available locally, and best way to work and prevent moss on your walls, plus also maintain your walls, whether it's plastered or not, is that you make a large hat, keep the water away from the walls. That's simply just do that. And this is after 13 years, it's still the same. Walls are perfectly fine. So how does one integrate wisdom from the past but into the present without it becoming queasy ethnic stuff? Next. And these units, they're small. They're bigger than the brick, so they're called blocks. They're 2.5 times a brick, a normal brick, but they can be really manipulated into various kinds of elements. And one is domes, walls. They can be used for curved wall, any which way. Next. And earth. In this small plot of 30 by 50, we didn't have place to make blocks, so we decided to build with rammed earth. It took us 2.5 years to build this building, but it was okay. The person wasn't really looking for a home right away, and we would bring just the amount of soil needed to build the wall. So every week, soil would come, and we built this. Next. So that's the final, in terms of our roof. So we call it a smart roof. Our home is called Sanssouci. We harvest clean drinking water, which is what we drink throughout the year. So our drinking water is secured from our roof. We don't have to worry if water came or not, at least drinking water is secured. Then we treat the wastewater on the terrace, because that's where we get the best sun. We use plants to treat the wastewater and use it for flushing as well as for the rice growing on the terrace. Then we harvest energy. That's the dry toilet. We use it for fertilizer. The grey water is treated, the grey water of bath and washing machine is treated again on the terrace, and that's the rice growing on the terrace. And that bottle is urine. Next. That's the rice growing on the terrace, that's the rice getting harvested. The first year we got rice, the next year onwards, rice, ragi, but the rest of the ecosystem knew about it, so the birds and the rodents would finish it off. But we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for the ecosystem and also for the idea that rice can be grown on the terrace. The idea that the cities can be provider of food too. And you can take care of your waste within your plot or within your city. And this has expanded, this thought, these discussions have expanded to the city scale. So Vishwanath has been working with BWSSB hugely, working on water and wastewater. So right now, this city of Bangalore treats its wastewater and is sending it 100 kilometers away to Kolar, a dry region of Karnataka, and it's filling up lakes there. It's filling up lakes, and the wells are revived. So people have water security, drinking water security, plus have enough water for growing rice. So they're growing rice 3 times a year. And they don't have to fight with Tamil Nadu or any other state. It's just coming. And it is our city which is giving. So look at it like things can scale up from a small idea. The small idea has to be merely impactful and you have to work at it further. Next. So when you design, you figure out on the terrace everything for your energy, water, where are you going to put different kind of energy system, where you're going to treat the wastewater, and how you're going to give them space enough for growing food. Next. And then you also have fun in design, simple additions. Next. So while Earth was worked a lot upon, the other thing one kept seeing is that our cities are changing. Our cities are breaking all the while. We are in this process because we are that kind of an economy still growing, and the pressure on land is so much that we will be breaking small homes. So can buildings be waste sink? Can we use construction debris and see the buildings itself as future quarries? So fill a slab with this waste. This was a time before many NGOs came and who are processing the computer peripherals. So this was before that. A filler slab is basically replacing of concrete below the neutral axis. So that concrete is not needed because it's in tension zone. So anything which is lighter. So computer keyboards are certainly lighter than that much of concrete. So we use that because otherwise where do you throw it? Or this I've shown earlier using of waste stone. Next. It's a project in Bhopal where through design iterations, the corner where Eklavya, the NGO, which also makes development aids and books, had to store paper. And that became the southwest corner. That's the hottest corner. And we're very worried about anything happening because of the paper there. And so we had to shade that corner. When we started the project, we'd been to the Kabadiwalas and we saw lovely louvers, again, the Indian Railways louvers of aluminium, and said, when we reach this stage, we will use them as the shading. 7 years, it takes a long time to do architecture projects. 7 years later, when we go, there are no more aluminium louvers, but fiberglass louvers. So it doesn't matter to us what it is. We brought them, whatever color they are, we just left them as it is. We didn't paint them or do anything because we just don't want to do anything extra. But now what has happened is they also become a home. We knew the plants would grow, but birds have also are nesting. We're very thrilled about it, that architecture, and this was not part of the design, through serendipity could do something more. Next. So that was use of waste. This is a building in Bangalore, an 80-year-old building. Well, it's not black and white because it wasn't nice, but it didn't have great indoor quality. So we said it has to go down, and we used all the material from it. The The stones which were in the foundation came out and became stones above. Next. But this story starts from here. So when we started digging for foundation, because we were going to make a load-bearing structure, we didn't want to make column and beam, we started noticing that the ground had a lot of water and silty soil. Through our interaction with a structural engineer, Professor Yoganand, we decided we'll do a well foundation. So the circles are all wells. You dig, here's digging happening, well rings are inserted, and it's filled with the rubble which we have stored from breaking the building, and it's filled with that and a grade beam put. So everything from below the foundation was also used, plus the only thing extra was the steel which came, and steel and concrete for the grade beam. Next. And that's the house. The stone walls are foundation stone and rest of it is earth blocks. Next. In this project is a school called Atelier in Hosur Sarjapur Road, where this land was meant only for 5 years, the client had. And they wanted a small school. We decided that why don't we try a structure which could be reused later. So it becomes a quarry of the future because it's only for 5 years. It's 10 years and still there. Next. So decided, how do we do the structure? Yeah, we're known for earth blocks. Fine, we'll use some earth blocks, which we had made blocks elsewhere where we had a lot of soil. Most of the external facade is glass, aluminum, and wood. The structure is steel, then a bamboo false ceiling and GI sheets. Even in the foundation, there's stone chapri. So all of it can be removed. Next. That's how it looks. So the paver blocks go inside too. Next. And that's how it is inside. Paper walls. But all of this material can be reused, or it can go back to the soil. The paper walls can go back to soil, but they're still fine. They can be reused again. You can remove the flooring and even get the corridors from below. So you can make money out of this building. Next is the inside of it. It's a 10,000 square feet square structure with one side sloping roof. It had to follow Vastu, so very simple structure, but we had to make the interior exhilarating. Next. So a couple of projects from larger projects next, and not earth. So this is a school for Jindal Steel. It's about, I think it's about 1.5 lakh square feet. Every classroom has 3 sections. This was next to the plant, and the air was polluted because of the plant. So, and the school had to be naturally ventilated. So how do we do that? We can't open the windows because of the pollution. So the decision was to put wind shafts next. So the upper classroom shade the lower ones, provide for quite a few smaller courtyards, so they're always shaded. Next. So this was the system put into the room. So we are taking fresh and cooler air from the top, since it comes down and then it is exhausted outside into the classroom, which is cooler at the lower level, and then taken the hotter air from above. So it's a solar chimney. We've had to paint it next. We had to paint them black and gray, but this is what the problem with, you do the hard work as an architect and the client takes over. So I made this picture black and white, otherwise this is pink and green. Which, because it doesn't tell you then which chimney is the one which is exhausting and which chimney is taking the cooler air down. And they were to be separately, at least dark gray and white. Next. And near Hyderabad, near Vikarabad, in fact, We went to this site when it had already rained. So always the sites look beautiful during the rainy season. Next. And it was a hill. And the clients had done a structure in steel and aerocon panels, something like that, which we felt is not part of the hill. It's just sitting on top of it. Next. So we just sketched at the site. Can we make a smaller hill alone? Next. And these are also of my colleagues. So this is Anurag. The earlier school was by Sharat Nayak. We made different models and we worked with a structural engineer, Mr. Rao, in Hyderabad. Next. And when he gave the drawings, we had to make small models to understand the way all those forces are working, and this model had to be also translated and understood by the contractor at the site. Next. What the proportions would be happening. So Mr. Rao had also designed the Hussain Doshi Gufa in Ahmedabad near Sept. Next. So at each section, different parabolas were drafted and given. Next. And these were done at the sites. At the site, the parabola was drawn. The steel was bent and then placed. Next. Then the shotcrete happened. Next. That's how it looks above. Next. There's the inside of it. Next. And there was these stones from around. So we took that and cladded the whole building with it. It also reduces the heat because it's otherwise a ferrocement shell. Next. Can you find it where it is? So it's kind of, even you're allowed to walk on top of it. Yeah. Next. Now we're ending with a small and a little story. So we're doing, we worked in about 40 villages in Madhya Pradesh. The Madhya Pradesh Tourism Board has come up with an idea that it would have homestays in villages for the urban people. So in a homestead, you have to add a room, a toilet, and we did about 200 of them, just room and toilet. But you have to work with the local people. A local NGO identifies the various people who would have these rooms, and so it's lovely to eat their cooking. So the city dweller has to eat the cooking, would stay there, but the city dweller wants a good toilet and a larger room compared to what the homestead has. But the difficulty was not that this cannot happen, but how do you convey? So Vidushi Gupta worked on it and she wrote everything in the local language. And she learned the various terms. In every 20 kilometers away, there will be a different term for a tile or a brick or wood or something. But she would do that and she would draft it in Hindi and send it in Devanagari more and send it to the place. And then she would have WhatsApp calls. And she also used AI to make some stuff and send images. And they would understand and they would make it out of it. I wish I had taken one where she designed a cot. Next. These are the kind of structures which would happen. The interior design is their own. That's the addition, the room in that homestead. So they made a small lawn. Next. But this was very interesting. So this unit, Rajkumari's husband decided he will build it. But like most husbands, nothing after 6 to 7 months. And so Rajkumari decided it's enough. Let me just talk to my friends. So about 6 or 7 of other women also came together and they built it. But they always asked the plumber or the electrician, is the male member who came to do some things, but otherwise everything is done by Rajkumari and her friends. But this Rajkumari is not only building the home, she's also working in the field, looking after the children, cooking, Just like all women, you have to do the multitasking. And she did it. Next. Which is that unit? The circular one. Because you have the tank above. Because the city dweller wants a flush toilet. And you don't see it elsewhere. You have a well there, but there's so much part of it. So I began with a small, I'm ending with a small. Thank you.